Happy Sabbath, church. It's a great honor to be here today. And one of the things that I love is, to see everyone together in unity like this. It's one of the things that I really love seeing. Now, today I'm going to be talking about one of the most, should I say, delicate subjects. And I should say I'm a little nervous, but more than that, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for the church and for the building itself. I do remember there were times when we had to worship outside in the air, under trees and things like that. Is there anybody who remembers times like that? Anybody? Those times were hard. And in fact, one of the brothers told us a story about a preacher who was, supposed to preach at a given time. Everything went, how the normal service goes, and they got ready for the sermon. He introduced the paper. You know how some people write their sermons. But as he was about to start preaching, the wind blew the paper, and he ran after the paper. Unfortunately for him, he couldn't catch the paper, so he ran and he never came back. That day there was no sermon. So I'm so thankful for this church because we can't have situations like that. So before I get into the message, I'm going to say a short prayer. Kindly Heavenly loving God, may you give us your spirit. May you give us to focus on your message. May we not see anything else but your word. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Now, I believe most of us know this song. The song that goes, "'Tis love, 'tis love, 'tis love that makes the world go round. 'Tis love, 'tis love, 'tis love that makes the world go round. 'Tis love, 'tis love, 'tis love that makes the world go round. 'Tis love that makes the world go round." So, as a young child, I used to listen to this song and wonder, how does love do that? And in all my geography classes, I was so attentive. But none of my teachers ever mentioned love, making the world move. And I was like, okay, how does this work? And in fact, I used to think, because the second part says, it's you and me who makes the world go round. I'm like, if the world depends on other people's loving to move, if it were to depend on certain people, it wouldn't move at all. That's what I used to think. And I'm like, how does it work? So I even went to the extent of doing some research on the internet and actually find out that in the Middle Ages, it was a common belief that love actually makes the world move, like literally. It's not even like, it wasn't even like a metaphor. And I thought about it, isn't it such a powerful thing? And I just have a question, does anyone know how that works really? Like, how does love make the world go round? Anybody? We all don't understand how it works? Okay, anyways, today we are going to be exploring that subject. Now, I'm sure most of us have seen this. I came up, I was introduced to this years back as I was in school. A certain scientist came up with all needs that a human needs, to be a fully functional human who is happy and satisfied and everything. And one of the things that I always ask myself as a Christian is, what is the summary of everything that we need? What is the pyramid? What is it that we really need to be happy human beings as Christians? And as I was reading the Bible, Jesus summarized it for us. When you go to Matthew chapter 22, from verse 37, Jesus gives us the most important laws. And there are only two. You know how the Bible has many laws? Some of them which were supposed to be, working at different times, but he summarized everything into just two simple laws. Now, the first says, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart," or with all your heart, "and with all your soul and your mind." And the second one is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And the thing that's interesting that he says is, on these two commandments hangs all the law and the prophets. And we know that when we talk about the law and the prophets, we're generally speaking about the Bible. Now, everything that the Bible says, everything that the Bible teaches, everything that the Bible has been speaking about is summarized in these two commandments. Loving God with all our heart and loving our neighbor as we love ourselves. And, it's very hard for some people to understand because, love is not such a very simple word to define, especially for these days. Knowledge has increased. We have lots of books. We have a lot of things. But at the same time, we've lost the ability to define simple things like what is it to be a human? What is love? What does it mean to be kind? If you ask an average person what is love, you will get the most, I would say sometimes ridiculous answers. When this was the thing that everybody was supposed to know. It was the thing that everybody was supposed to believe in. Now, if the Bible is the basic instruction before leaving earth, as we know, Jesus has given us everything we need to know to be happy in this world and also to be able to reunite with Him and be happy in the world to come, in the next world to come. Now, Jesus said in John 10:10, He said, the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. But I am come that they may have life, and not just have life, but have it more abundantly. The way I love to think about it is Jesus came to the world so that He might teach us how to be happy in this world, even though it's a world full of sorrow and things like that. And not just that, but give us the opportunity to have an eternal life, to live a life with Him that shall have no sin for an eternity. So, would it be wrong to say, would it be wrong to say that holistic success, even in this world, is based on those two laws? And when I say holistic success, I'm talking about physical success, spiritual success, financial success, career success, and all the aspects of our lives. If we understand how these two laws work, live them and follow them, we will be happy people who are fulfilled in all aspects of our lives. In fact, the world, the way it works was built on a principle of altruism. So we were created to think more of others than ourselves. In fact, it may sound like some sort of foreign idea, but there are people who understand this, even in the business world. This is one of the business books that I read, and I was so shocked. One of the author puts down certain principles that you're supposed to use to be successful in business. And this is the summary of the book says, success is a result of specific habits of action. Create value, touching people's lives, putting others' interests first. And that was the most thing that got me interested. Even people in the world, people in the business world, understand that to be successful, you must put other people's interests first. Not to think about yourself first, think about others first. Now, let's go in the beginning. How was it in the beginning? This is what Ellen G. White says. Before, God's perfect work was destroyed. This is how things work. Everything was created to declare God's glory. Now, there's nothing that was ever created, apart from us humans, of course, that lives unto itself. Nothing that was created to serve itself. The bird that lives in the air, no animal upon the ground, but ministers to some other life. There's no leaf of the forest or lowly blade of grass, but has its ministry. Now, I know some of you understand biology more than I do, but we have the plants producing food. They don't use it just for themselves, but we get to profit. And in fact, if we didn't have plants, we wouldn't be here today, because we ourselves don't produce food, but the plants do. We have all these cycles going on in the world, how we breathe in, we give carbon dioxide to plants, and plants give us oxygen, and by giving, we live. So there's this concept of giving is actually the way to have life. Now, when I talk about life, I'm not just talking about mere existence. And then she goes on to explain how the sun sheds light. We know what the sun does. We know, in fact, from the time she wrote this, I think there's been more discoveries of how, we need light and what light does and how light is so important. And it's this thing that helps everyone. But the sun is giving its light to us. What does the sun take in turn? When it gives its light, is it receiving something? Does the sun require something for it to give? And this is how everything was meant to be. Even Jesus himself, who is the creator of everything, when he came to the world, he said, I do nothing of myself. He did nothing of himself. Everything that he was doing for the Father, he was doing for us. He wasn't here for himself. And it's the same way, no one is here for themselves. You are not here for yourself. Amen. I love one sermon, one of the preachers that I love to listen to. He preaches a sermon saying, I am not the man. I am not the man. It's not about me. It's not about you. Every morning when you wake up, you're supposed to remember that this life is not really about you. You were created to make a difference in somebody's life, not just be there for yourself. And, some people may think, okay, well, you could do that. It may work, but I can still be there for myself and it still work. When we go to the beginning, the world is the way it is because somebody thought they could start thinking in terms of I. They started thinking about themselves. Did you ever think or ask yourself, what would have happened if Satan in that moment asked himself a question, what can I do to love God more? What can I do to serve Jesus more? What can I do to serve my fellow angels more? And replace the I with we. What would have happened? We wouldn't be here. But he started, he thought about I. And there's this verse that summarizes everything that he did in a good way, saying, I will ascend into heaven. So he's more about I, and he wanted to be first. And from this example only, we learn that the moment you want to become first, you actually end up becoming last. And it's it's more like a concept that works in the opposite, but that's how God created everything. And that's the beauty of it. We are here to serve, not to be served. Adam and Eve, they were happily living before sin came in. And after God created Adam, he said it is not good for man to be alone. And now some of you think it was because, he was lonely and things like that. No, not necessarily. It's because he would never be complete until he has someone to serve. Because God's nature is to serve. When you look at what God was doing in creation, what was he doing for himself? He was putting everything there for man. He made sure that he has a place safe for man to be. He provided him with everything. And he says, if I have created this man in my own image, he won't be complete until he has someone to serve. So he can be like me. Because God's nature is love, and love is to serve. So they were happily living when they were still, they were still thinking about God and thinking about each other, not about themselves necessarily. Until they got infected by the virus of I. When Eve was looking at the fruit, she wasn't thinking, this will make us happy, will make me and my husband happy. And I like to imagine what would have happened if she thought a moment and said, everything sounds good, but give me a moment, I'm going to first consult God on this. Let's see what he thinks. No, she couldn't even wait to take an opinion. And that's how things go wrong. When you think you are the one in charge, you are the one making the decisions, it's your life, then suddenly everything collapses. That's how things work. And this is why we are here today. And everything is going the wrong way it's going. Because somebody thought in terms of themselves. They thought about I, instead of we, instead of God, instead of what about Adam? What is going to happen? And you know, from that time, relationships were broken. The relationship between Adam and God, and even God, was broken. And as a result, the relationships between humans were broken. And this world is supposed to be more like a triangle. It's a relationship between you and God, and then the relationship between you and man. When there's no relationship between you and God, there's no real relationship between you and the fellow man. You may be there may be friends, you may have things you share in common, but those relationships are not going to give or produce anything that is worthwhile.
Amen.
And you know, after many years had passed, thousands of years, we had forgotten what love is. We couldn't even define what love is. You know, when Jesus came to the world, it was very pathetic to see what the people in the church, people who were readers of the word, were doing. And Paul, inspired by God, brought the definition of love to us. And today, we just have to go to that chapter and read, and it's more like a mirror, to look into it to see whether we really know, whether we are really loving or not. And he says, love suffers long. And when we talk about love and say God is love, you will see that if you take every adjective that is in this chapter, it also applies to God. God is long-suffering, and love suffers long. And you know, when I was reading a commentary on love is kind, it says, you know, love doesn't just seek to be useful, or doesn't just, you know, take opportunities. Like, you know, well, if you ask me to help you, I'm going to help you. Or if you need anything, call me. No, love seeks for the opportunities to be useful. Love is when you ask someone, is everything okay? Can I help? Do you need anything? Can I be there for you? Do you need someone to talk to? That is what kindness means. Yes. Not only being nice to people when they are nice to you or when they ask. That's not how it works. Now, when was the last time you went out of your way to be a little bit vulnerable and ask someone if they need something? And this is how love is supposed to work. And when we go down, there's not envy, of course. There's not parade itself. And when I get to the part where it says, thinks no evil, I'm like, no, this is not humanly possible. This is a divine thing. You cannot be able to love unless you learn it from God. We cannot love by our own power. It's impossible. You just have to go through history. And you see, a lot of people may have good intentions, but intentions are not enough. People would promise, I'll be there for you. You can count on me. But when time comes, they say, I'm sorry. And what is the common say they say? You know, we are human beings. Because love is not a human thing. It's a divine thing. It's a divine character that we can only get from God.
Amen.
It's a divine character. So, this is now the part that I want us to look at for a few minutes. It says love never fails. You know, when they say love never fails, doesn't mean you can just get together with anyone. You know, love will make everything work. We are going to be together. That's not the kind of love we are talking about here. And it continues to say, you know, whether there will be prophecies, they will fail, but love will still be there. But now, when we get to verse 11, it says, when I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. You know, first time I read this, I thought obviously he was a child at some point, and he grew up. You know, when we're young, we don't really know how to speak, and then we learn how to speak. Sometimes we don't even know how to, you know, express our ideas, we learn to express ourselves. They said, well, yeah, that happens to everybody. Why are you telling it? Like, that's normal. But when I looked at it deeply, it means something else. Paul is talking about spiritual maturity. And that's the thing that I want us to look at today. Maybe the reason why we don't really love is because we are not spiritually mature. So, I want us to walk through levels of spiritual maturity. And I know this is not for everyone, but I'm sure every one of us will find themselves at some stage. Now, the first one is reward and punishment stage. This is the stage where we do everything because, okay, everything is good when we're getting reward for it, it's bad when we're getting punished for it. Now, when you think about it, some people are here because they know that, God is in charge, but not only is He in charge, if you don't do what He wants, you are going to hell. They're afraid of that punishment. And everything they do is not inspired by anything else. It's inspired by the thought to say, I don't want to be punished. And when I thought about it, I asked myself, why was Paul, persecuting those Christians? Is it because they were doing something that he believed was wrong, and because they were doing something he believes is wrong, he also believed that they deserved the punishment. They deserved to be punished for it. And some of us sadly are operating at this level. We don't think as long as we are getting rewarded for it, it's good. If we are getting punished for it, it's bad. And this is the same concept that when people make decisions based on feeling good or feeling bad. If it makes me feel good, I'll do it. If it makes me feel bad, I'm not trying. But that's not how Christianity works. This can be a beginning place, but it's not a place to stay. It's a stage, you can begin here, but you don't have to stay here. So, at some point we move on. We move on to marketplace exchange, where we say, oh, God is being nice to me, I'll be nice, or I will obey His laws because He's blessing me, of course, He's keeping me alive. And what happens when things go wrong? Where is God? I thought He cared about me, but that's not how it works. When you look at the Israelites in Exodus, when Moses came to them, taught them what they're supposed to do, and taught them the blessings that come from, following God's law, and the curses, they quickly would say, all the Lord has said we will do. Why? Because they're interested in the blessings. But, relationship with God is not a transaction. It's not like a business transaction where you give me this, I give you that. And we can see that because they come up with concepts like eye for an eye because they believe you give, you take. So if you do something wrong must happen to you too. And we have people who believe in this. If he did this, he deserves this. You hear people say, oh, he deserves to rot in jail for what he did. That's not Christianity. That's not how it works. Some churches promise to say, if you do this, you will get this. If you give your tithe, you get blessings. Well, blessings are a byproduct, but it's not the main thing. It's not the reason why we should be here. Again, this can be a stage, but it's not a place to stay. And we move on to social conformity, which is the most common thing in these days. Everybody's doing it. Why are you doing it? Because everybody else is doing it. Did you think about it? No, come on, everybody's doing it. There's no way everybody would be doing their own thing. Is that how it works? And the best example in the Bible is when the Israelites say, we want a king. And, someone tells them, a king will do X, Y, Z to you. He's like, we don't care because everybody else is doing it. We want to do it too. And what happened? Sadly, some of us are also at that stage of life where in our Christianity, we only do what the others are doing. We don't think through. We don't have a really personal relationship with God. We only do what everybody's doing. Well, most of the youth do this too. Is it wrong? What does the Bible say? Everybody's doing it. This can be a place, like a stage, to begin at or to go through, but this is not a place to stay. This should not be the basis of our Christianity or anything that we do in life for that matter.
Amen.
And then there's law and order. And this is the most controversial one. Because why? We have commandments in the Bible. Do you know why the laws are there in the Bible? Some people don't know, but they should be followed, right? And they say, why do you do this? This is what the law says. And we have people who will step on your head to fulfill the law. They don't care what you feel. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care what you think, as long as the law is what? Is fulfilled.
Mercy.
In the time of Jesus, when Jesus was doing his work, he was healing on Sabbath. What were the Pharisees saying? What was their main concern? It was the law. They were not concerned about anything else. They don't care if anybody's getting saved. They don't care if it's love or not. As long as the law is not followed, that's wrong. A man just got healed. He's carrying his mat on the Sabbath. They don't ask him, tell us what happened. How do you feel being let free after many, many years? No. Why are you carrying the mat on Sabbath? That's their main concern. And it's very, very surprising how some people can think, but this is what the devil gets us to think. He says, you know God's law, that's it, you got it. Just stay there and follow the laws, but that's not where God wants us to stay.
Amen.
And when you look at this, from the first stage to this stage, it's about self. It's about self because some of us think because we keep the law, we are going to get self. That's the only way to stay safe in God's kind of place. We are going to get self when God comes. He will say, "Oh, you followed all my commandments. Come and join me in the kingdom." But that's not the end. Now, just jump. Okay, it's working. Now, this is the stage where Christianity begins. Real Christianity, we are talking about maturity in Christianity, love for others. At this stage, we are not only thinking about the law, we are not only thinking about the blessings, we are not only thinking about what we are getting, we are not only thinking about what others are doing, we are thinking about the other person, thy neighbor. What is good for your neighbor? And when we say what is good for your neighbor, we're not talking about what makes them feel good. In fact, some of the things that are good for them won't make them feel good. They will hate you for them. They will spend years without talking to you because of the things that you did. But those things are unfortunately good for them. They may even crucify you like they crucified Jesus. Who did Jesus hurt? What bad thing did he do? But he was crucified. So when we talk about these levels, when you are interested to do what is good for others, to tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. To show them what they have to see, not what they would love to see, what they would like to see. And to be honest, it's the most hardest thing. This stage could destroy some of the relationships you have. It could end them, like permanently. You could lose people, and that's what the Bible says. That, parents and children are going to separate. Parents are disowning their children because of this level. And this is what Jesus did. He was busy healing people on the Sabbath, breaking what people considered to be the law at that time, socializing with tax collectors, something that anybody wouldn't do at that time, touching lepers. That's what he was doing. And that is what love is about. And we know the story of the Good Samaritan. That's the most, the story that shows this concept more. That person, that Good Samaritan, was a Samaritan saving a Jew. And the most interesting part to me is there was a pastor preaching about it. Not only does he save him, he takes him to an inn. And that inn was a Jewish inn. Now, when you think about it, him being a Samaritan, was it safe for him to go in that Jewish territory? Was it? It wasn't. But he was doing what was in the best interest of the other person. You could risk your life, put your life on line to do what is good for the other person. And when you think about Paul, he transformed from all those levels where he was doing things that he believed were good, things that he believed were the right things. And when Jesus made him and transformed him, he started doing what was good for others. And he even put his life on the line for this. Now, this level requires thinking. But when I say thinking, it doesn't require cognitive intelligence. In fact, you don't need to understand how things work. You don't need to be intelligent. You only need emotional intelligence. You can see people who have cognitive disabilities loving others like nobody can. So to be a Christian, you don't need to be intelligent. You just need to speak the language of love. That's the language of Christianity. And now, the sixth level is when now you have understood that you have to love others, but not only do you understand that you have to love others, you understand design law. Now, when we talk about design law, we're talking about how God created everything. In fact, the 10 commandments are not just laws that God put there just because he thinks or he feels like. Those are the life-giving laws. If you follow them, you will have life. And it's as simple as that. It's like the law of the gravitation law. If you are up on a building, if you decide to jump, whether you believe in the gravitation law or not, whether you think it exists or not, whether you choose to say, no, I don't believe in it, you're going to fall. And if you're not careful, you will die. And that's how the law works. Whether you know it or not, it's the law that gives life. And if you don't follow it, at one point you are going to die. The death process may start in the world. It's more like suicide by isolation. You die emotionally. You know, you die emotionally where you feel lifeless. You may still exist, people may still see you, you may still afford to force a smile here and there, but somewhere, somehow you are dead. Now, at this principle, not only do we have love for others, but we understand how God created this world. And we want to live the way that God designed things to be, not just because we are afraid of the punishment or because of the blessings, but because it's the life-giving reality. That's how things work. That's how things go. And then we pass this, we get to an understanding friend of God. Being an understanding friend of God. Not only do we have love for God, not only do we have love for others, but we understand who God is. We understand when we read the verses where he says he's our friend, we take it for what it is. That's what he means. You know, I've seen people who serve God in fear. They think God is this person who's ready to persecute if you don't go or if you don't do things the way he commanded you to do. But that's not how God wants us to think of him. Yes, he is the creator, he has all the power, he's very far away from us, but he wants us to think of him as his friend. You know, one of the songs I like is the song that says, friend of God. I am a friend of God. It says, who am I that you are mindful of me? You know, who am I? We may be insignificant when you consider what God has created, but he still chooses to call us friend. He still chooses to walk our way and say, I'll be your friend. At this level, we understand the character of the law. We understand that the law are only portraying or showing us what God is like. And in fact, we understand that 5 of those laws mean one thing: love your neighbors, you love yourself. And the other 5 mean love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And it becomes simple. And you wonder why we have a lot of laws in the Bible. It's because some people are still growing and operating at the other stages. They need list of rules. When you look at the laws that were there in the time of Moses, there were so many. Why? Because people didn't understand to this level. And today what I'm hoping we do is that we grow from all those stages and become an understanding friend of God. You know, we get to the level where what we are doing is loving God with all our heart. We are not just following the Sabbath. We're not just trying to eat right. You know, we're not just trying to do things, but we are in a relationship with Him. Yes. You know, I think about a marriage. You love your wife loves you. They don't have a list. They don't have a list of rules. You shall greet him in the morning. You shall hug him. Thou shalt. You don't have that. Why do you end up doing it? It's because of love. Christianity should be compelled by love. It's not about the rules. Yes, some people need them before they realize what Christianity is really about. Because to be honest, it takes time. It takes time for other people. But when we have reached maturity, like Paul says, when I was a child, I spake as a child. You will hear people who speak like this. How dare you do this? We do these things this way here. How come you do things differently? They don't understand that all you're trying to do is love. That's what they did to Jesus. They crucified him for loving others. And when we have gone, when we get to this stage, Christianity will be a sweet thing. Because not only is it this concept, it's not just it's not just being part of a community, part of people who are doing something. It's about a relationship. It's like a marriage. It's like a marriage. And that's the experience that we need as Christians. This is how Jesus operated. This is where Jesus was. This is what Jesus did. This is what Jesus came to teach us to be. And when he leaves, he tells us, I'm no longer calling you servants, because servants do not buy. Understand. They don't understand their master. They have the law. They know the rules, but they don't understand what the master is up to. They don't even know what he's planning, what he wants to do. But no, just don't want us to think that way. He said, I've named you friends because I have shown you everything I want. We know the plan of salvation. We know what happened. In fact, the reason why we're here is because God wants to show us that He's just. God doesn't want to create these, relationships where we are afraid of Him. Suddenly we have some people who are part of us, because of things being presented in the wrong way to them, they left the church. And now they are in what they believe is the new covenant, where the law doesn't exist, where the Sabbath doesn't exist. If you take the law the wrong way, it will become your enemy. But the law is not supposed to be our enemy. It's supposed to be the thing that takes us to God. When we reach the point where we love God to that extent, we won't see the law as the law anymore. We'll see it as husband and wife doing what is good for their spouse. Jesus wants us to be His friends, not just servants. And this is the part where God is, saying how He's going to establish a new covenant. That you love one another as I have loved you. Yes, preach His message. Go ye therefore. Talk about the truth. But most importantly, what? Love one another. This should be, what can I say? This should be the main thing that people see. When people think about it, I know some of us want to be known as the people of the Bible. That's good, but what does the Bible teach? It teaches about love. Jesus Himself said everything that was written up until to this point was to point us to those two laws. It's all about love. Now I'll finish with this ad. I saw this ad. It's the Royal Dutch Airlines, and they have this ad going on, and they say it's not just about the blue uniform. It's not just the blue uniform that makes them stand out, but it's because they care. Now nothing else will make us stand out apart from that we care. People don't care to know what you know until they know that you do what? You care. So today, as we live, I want us to remember about love. This world is all about love. What we do should be about love. When people think about us, what comes in their mind? Is it love? That's a question we should ask ourselves. And may the Lord bless you.
Amen.